What if I'm not me? Sometimes the most frightening thought does not arrive like a scream. It arrives quietly, almost casually. You look into the mirror, and everything seems normal. The same face, the same eyes, the same familiar expression you know how to wear without thinking. And yet, somewhere inside, a strange feeling begins to grow. As if someone else is standing beside you. Not a stranger, not a ghost, but you, only different. And then a question appears, the kind of question most people try to push away as quickly as possible. What if I am not who I think I am? What if my real self does not fully match the person I have become? What if somewhere inside me, another version has been living quietly for years, wearing my name, using my voice, moving through my life? For a very long time, human beings have feared the idea of the double, the doppelgänger. In old stories, meeting your double was never a good sign. It was an omen, a warning, sometimes even a sentence. But even if we put the legends aside, something unsettling remains. Because deep down, all of us know what it means to feel like we are no longer fully ourselves. Not because we are lying all the time. Sometimes the truth is more subtle than that. We do not become divided in one dramatic moment. We become divided slowly. First, we learn how to be acceptable. Then we learn how to be strong God. Then we learn how to be useful. Then how to be quiet. Then how to be what other people need. And little by little, the role becomes more familiar than the voice inside us. This is where the double appears. Not as a monster from the dark, but as an inner construction. A version of you built to survive. And that double is not useless. In fact, it can be very impressive. It knows how not to cry when crying would be dangerous. It knows how to smile when everything inside feels empty. It knows how to say, "I'm fine," when nothing is fine. It knows how to perform control. It knows how to stay composed. It knows how to become the person who will not be rejected. When life is tense, the double can feel like salvation. It protects. It adapts. It helps us survive. It is like armor. Like a mask that has been worn for so long, it begins to feel like skin. But there is always a cost. The stronger the double becomes, the weaker the living, feeling part of us can grow. The part that does not feel on schedule. The part that wants things that make no sense. The part that is vulnerable, confused, emotional, imperfect. The part that is not always efficient. The part that feels fear, shame, hope, longing, and sorrow without permission. That part does not always look strong, but it is alive. And one day, something disturbing can happen. You realize that your life is still moving. You work, you speak, you answer messages, you make plans, you continue. But inside, it feels strangely empty. Outwardly, everything is functioning. Inwardly, there is silence. And in that silence, a terrible question rises. Which one is the real me, The one who lives or the one who survives? Psychology may give this many names: dissociation, burnout, identity crisis, defense mechanisms, emotional detachment. But philosophy asks a different kind of question. It asks, what is it that makes me truly myself? Is it memory, my body, my history, my choices, my values? And what if my choices are shaped by fear more than truth? What if my life has slowly been built out of adaptation rather than authenticity? What if I have become so practiced at being the right person that I no longer hear the person underneath? This is why the double is such a disturbing image. Because it reveals that a human being can stand very close to themselves and still be far away. We can live on automatic for so long that the self becomes a function, a performance, a system. And perhaps the most frightening part is not that the double exists. Perhaps the most frightening part is that the double can begin to take over. Not because it is evil, but because it is efficient. It does not ask, what do you really feel? It asks, how do we stay in control? It does not ask, what do you really want? It asks, what is safest? It does not dream that it calculates. It does not trust life. It manages risk. And so an invisible division forms inside us. One part wants to feel. Another part says, that is dangerous. One part wants freedom. Another says, freedom has consequences. One part wants truth. Another says, truth might cost too much. And then another possibility begins to appear. What if the real self is not the polished one? What if the real self is not the most controlled version? What if the real self is the one that trembles sometimes, doubts sometimes, breaks sometimes? What if the real self is the one that can finally admit, I am not okay, I am tired. I do not know who I am becoming. I miss something I cannot name. If the double is armor, then the true self may feel more like a wound. But a wound is also proof that something in us is still alive. And this is where the quietest, hardest part begins. Because to come back to yourself, you have to do what the double hates most. You have to stop. Not run into busyness, not hide in noise. Not numb yourself with distraction. Not cover the silence with endless content or endless tasks. You have to become still enough to ask, what do I actually feel? What do I actually want? When did I begin to replace myself with a role? When did survival become my personality? Sometimes the answer does not come in words. Sometimes it comes as a feeling, a recognition, a faint memory of your own inner voice. Not the voice you use for other people, the deeper voice. The one that speaks in the most honest moments when no one is watching. And even then, the double will not simply disappear. Because the double is not an enemy you can destroy. It is part of you. It was created for a reason. It may have protected you once. It may have helped you survive something difficult. It may have kept you from collapsing when life demanded too much dot. So the goal is not to kill the double. The goal is to stop giving it total power. The double is useful in danger. But life is not meant to be only danger. Sometimes life is simply life. And life cannot be fully lived by armor alone. So perhaps the final question is not, how do I get rid of my double? Perhaps the final question is more unsettling and more human. What if the self was never just one voice? What if being me is not about finding one pure identity, but learning how to listen to what is most alive within me? What if the double appears not to replace me, but to show me how far I have drifted from myself? If that is true, then meeting the double is not only horror, it is also a signal. A quiet signal that somewhere inside, something real is still waiting. Still waiting to be heard, still waiting to be chosen. Still waiting for you to notice that beneath the mask, beneath the role, beneath the survival version of you, there is still someone alive. And maybe that is the real fear. But maybe it is also the beginning of freedom.